All right, we're live. Hi, welcome to all our live viewers. This is our weekend recording of the Polite Society podcast. I want to thank our advertisers, ABN, Army Surplus, Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, NJ2AS, and Firearms Safety Institute. We're not going to be running commercials on the YouTube broadcast tonight because, honestly, we just recorded a whole bunch of new ones today. And I have to do a lot of editing and doing some rearranging here. But so next weekend we'll be going back to where you'll actually hear them on the broadcast. But so anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll be rocking and rolling here in just a second. As always, we have the Q&A app up on the. If you're watching us on Google Plus or on YouTube, you can hit the Q&A app and ask us a question live on the air. You can also go to politicsandguns.com/live, and you can participate in the chat room. My lovely wife, Susan, is manning the chat room right now, and she says she's real lonely and bored. So...
oh, what a bad thing to hear from anybody's wife. That's just begging for an adventure.
So, yeah, head on over there. Say hi to Susan. She's giving me the pouty face over there. I'm all alone, she says. So, tonight's show, not with us right now, but joining us before we leave is going to be Ben Branam of Modern Self-Protection. Gary Doherty, one of our sponsors from Firearms Safety Institute, is going to be sitting in on the show tonight. Matt, our regular listener from Sioux City, is up again. And for those of you watching live on YouTube, he's the one hiding behind that monstrosity called a microphone. Of course, Rob and John are here, and then joining us at the studio here in ABN as well, we have Shelley Sorensen and Jesse Shield. They're going to be doing some work for the Great Plains Second Amendment Society, something I started a little over a year ago and has been backburnered, but is now moving, if not to the front burner, at least to the mid ones. So that's what's coming up on the show tonight. Okay. Want to mention also thank you to all the Chat Window Warriors. I think I've been forgetting the last few times to put invitations to Chat Window Warriors, and I did remember to do that tonight. So if you're watching with the Chat Window Warriors, thank you for joining in. Okay.
But before we do news,
yep,
there's this last article, one of the articles in here about Clark Apogian, was a gun rights lobbyist in Utah.
Okay.
And got into a domestic, my lawyer can beat up your lawyer, domestic violence, come take all my guns. So there are a bunch of comments in there I'd like people to, when we get to the news, read down there and take them.
Okay. Rachel just sent a message through Facebook. She says, tell everybody hi. Shout out to PSP listener Tim Crosno for his help at the San Antonio shoot today, and congratulations to him for passing his PC test. Cool.
PC is public carry?
I hope not politically correct. I don't know. I don't know what PC is. So, but Tim, hey, congratulations, man. Thank you for helping out, and congratulations. Are we ready to do this open? Gary, did you see I wrote you in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, I suppose I should actually open up. There we go. Audacity's ready to go.
Trying to find the list of the other thing that you and I talked about.
Yeah, because we'll be getting into that. When do we want to do that? We'll probably do that. Let's do it after the news as one of the interview segments. We'll do it after the news, and you and I will just tee off on the idiocy in Illinois and why I'm here and not there tonight.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever get anybody to actually sign up for that class?
Yeah, I had a few guys. Few referrals. Yeah.
Good.
We had a good class. We're going to shoot. We got second day tomorrow, and then we'll shoot tomorrow afternoon.
Good. I'm glad that it wasn't a total waste.
No, it never is.
Gary, do you have events lined up that we should be citing at the end of the podcast? Oh, check out so-and-so.
I should, but I don't. I don't have anything set up right now.
Okay.
When
Well,
you do, let
I'd
us
rather-
know because
Yes.
yeah, when you do, let us know because we'll read them. You know, we do Kathy Jackson's every episode. We'll throw yours in there too.
Great.
We'll do yours after Kathy, and because I mean, I can't stress enough how I really want everybody to get training, and so. All right, are we ready to fly with this open?
I'm ready.
Okay. Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society podcast, recorded live on Saturday, June 28th, 2014. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm John Richardson, and we'll talk with Ben Branam of Modern Self-Defense.
I'm Rob Morrison. We have our weekly stories of defensive gun use.
I'm Gary Doherty, and we'll talk about some strange technicalities of Illinois concealed carry law. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 248 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. Hey, and welcome back. Just to let you know, we are recording like we do every Saturday night, live from ABN Army Surplus in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You can stop down and join in, and we'll get coffee on, and we'll maybe entertain you a little bit. But anyway, this is our personal news segment, and let's go ahead and start off on my list on the bottom of my computer. The first one I have up is Gary Doherty with the Firearm Safety Institute. Gary, what's been up with you since the last time you were on the air, man?
Oh, wow, since the last time I've been on the air, I'm not sure. I've been teaching a lot. I had a class wrap up on Thursday, except for the shooting portion, and then I started the first part of a second class today, and we'll do their second 8 hours of mandatory training, and I'll have both classes meet up tomorrow afternoon at the range, and we're going to do some shooting and qualifying.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, looks like then, John, you're next. What's been up with you, man?
Well, since the midweek show, not much. Just work. What can I say?
Yeah.
Somebody's got to pay the bills. Good job.
Well, thank you.
All right. Looks like Rob. Then you're next on my list of faces on the bottom of my screen.
Well, when I wasn't, paying the bills, I finally went to a friend's house, and I got to play with this CERT pistol I've got. It comes with some software, so you can put up paper targets, have a webcam, look at different zones on them, and then practice shooting at them. It'll give you a starting beep, give you your splits, give you your score. What's interesting is it will show where the gun points after you release the shot. So if you're kind of slashing across the target as you squeeze the trigger and, you thought it was recoil, but in fact it was just really bad trigger press that was causing you to have difficulty with your follow-up shots. Really valuable. A little oddity we hadn't noticed, and one of my other buddies came in and joined us. You've seen lots of homes that have a full-length mirror near the entryway. Women check themselves out as they leave. Guys make sure that they're actually dressed. But as you walked in, you could see the target we were shooting at, and then in the mirror, you could see its reflection to the opposite side. So we set up kind of a 180 swing where you'd shoot the target on the right and then turn and shoot the same target mirror image in this full-length mirror. So that was kind of fun. We didn't know that his living room could be that that inventive as a range, but it was fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
And one of the things we got to do that you really seldom get to do is, what do you call it? Non-aimed fire. What am I thinking of? Close contact, point shooting.
Point shooting, yeah.
Yeah, just very few ranges let you turn rounds loose unless you're really sure where they're going to go. But with a laser pistol, it's not, that's the way to practice. This morning I shot real guns, an IDP match down at Alpine. It's well, you know where Alpine is, Paul. Just
Sure.
yeah, down where you near where you used to live.
Just north of where I used to live. Yeah.
Yeah, and I could go on for hours talking about how much fun I had. You're going to give me.
How about we do like 30 seconds?
All right. Well, obviously, shooting steel and shooting in a live range is a lot noisier than a laser, and a little bit harder on the neighbors. One thing, we were shooting from inside a truck, and I double plugged, and it was still really loud. One of the guys told me they shot a 3-gun match where one of the things they did was turn loose a 308 inside that truck.
Ooh.
And I'm going,
ooh, we're talking we're not talking a club cat pickup. We're talking a regular pickup truck.
Three-across pickup.
Oh,
and it
wow.
had a muzzle brake on it. It was, I'm going,
Oh.
Man, I want my head in a motorcycle helmet with earmuffs. That was but it all, from a practical point of view, it taught me how really difficult it is to get any kind of firing position in a vehicle. It's hard, but it was fun. It was, yeah, I got to move, I got to shoot at targets that moved, and as I said, some were, for a handgun, distant shots out at 25 yards, and others were at 2.5 feet.
Okay. So a whole lot more fun than a square range is what you're trying to say.
Hard to go back to that square range, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's Matt, our frequent, our constant listener, frequent guest up here, is hiding behind his microphone. But what have you been up to since the last time you were on the air, man?
Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to do much shooting, but I did get a chance to do a bunch of dry fire practice, because when you can't shoot, you can at least practice and make sure you maintain trigger control, and it makes you better the next time you go out to actually throw lead down range.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as me, I finished training a student, and when I'm training, and this week is no exception, I put in 70 hours on the logbook, but so much of the time in training that I'm in the sleeper and that I'm logged in the sleeper is actually still spent training. So I put in another 100+ hour week. It's been a very, very full week. This morning, went and walked in the parade up in Del Rapids, supporting Kristi Noem, who's my congressperson who's running for re-election this fall, and walked in the Del Rapids parade this morning. Got down here, and what will be evident to people when they listen to this, I got down here early this afternoon, and we had one of Susan and my friends came down. She's a professional voice actress, and she recorded a whole bunch of stuff for us, including some new ad stuff. So that's been what I've been doing. Nothing really gun related, other than during the week doing the cross state tango. Arming when you can, disarming when you can't. So that's been what's up with me. So,
Paul, is there an update on the dog? How's she doing?
She's doing well. She's doing very well. For the listeners, we had a real scare this week. Our dog Dakota she's 14 and a half years old, and she's a very big dog. And big dogs, people that know dogs know that big dogs are not quite as long-lived as little ones. And 14 and a half for any dog is getting up there in years. But she had some she's got some problems with arthritis, and she started to have some other health issues. We thought we might have to we thought we might have to have her put down, but the vet said it was colitis. Is that right, Susan?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The vet said it was colitis.
Yes.
And gave her treatment for it, and she's doing much better.
Oh, that's good news.
Yeah. So yeah, we've adjusted her diet a little bit, and the doctor gave her some meds, or the vet gave her some meds, and she's doing a lot better. and was actually playing around before we came today, so he's in a much better mood, I would say. So anything else before we head off to news? Not hearing anything, so let's go ahead and do this. We're going to step off to news. We're going to find out what's up with ABM. We'll be right back right after this. Okay, let me export this.
You talked about it on the last show, Paul. I was just bringing a follow-up.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm just happy to hear.
Yeah, 14 and a half is really old for a larger dog. You guys have done something really good then, along the way.
Mr. Fat says, hello, Rob. Glad the show's on. I think he's referring to the midweek show when we started really late.
Guilty as charged. Well, we had 2 interviews, Mr. Fats. They pushed the show back by an hour on Wednesday.
And Mr. Fats, when that show will be released tomorrow, anybody that watches on YouTube that doesn't necessarily catch the podcast, that show will release tomorrow, and that was 2 really, really good interviews. You want to catch the download of that show. It was Anthony Calandro and John and Prince. I cannot forget his name.
Pierce.
Monica Selects. That's how I know him, is the Monica Select.
That'll work. People will learn.
But wow, 2 great interviews. You want to definitely catch those when we release the show. So, okay, news segment. John, looks like you got the first one, man.
So you want me to bring us back?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Are we ready? Are we? Everybody all set to go?
Ready?
I'm ready. Okay.
Okay. Let me
In
get
5.
rolling.
You ready? In 5. Hi, and welcome back to the Polite Society podcast.
Sorry, just a minute. Stop.
Okay.
Hey, there's one at the end here. What are we going to do with it?
I would like to, if you guys don't mind, when we lead news off, can I want to put in Shelley and Jesse and talk about that for just a couple minutes, and then we'll get into regular news if that's okay. Because I want to be able to introduce them in case they have something they want to say. I want to make sure that they aren't strange voices just popping into the show. Is that cool?
Yeah. It sounds like a revised plan.
Yeah, kind of. That's how we roll, man.
Hey, Gary.
Yes.
Do you want to read a news article? There's one out of southeastern Wisconsin.
I'd be more than happy to. Whatever you got.
Okay. It's the last one. I just tagged you with it.
All right.
You
I
just
also tagged you with the second one.
Yeah, yep, I saw that, John. We're good.
Okay.
Anybody that's interested, and Gary, you as well. Susan just put a couple of pictures of our little puppy who's 125 pounds on the Polite Society podcast page. So.
Oh, is that a crib?
Yes. That's actually a child's. That's a toddler bed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she totally fills it. That's her bed.
Yeah.
How much dog food does she go through? Not as much as she used to. She used to go through a 50-pound bag of dog food a week.
Oh my God, that does not surprise me.
Where on the page?
Facebook, Polite Society.
Oh,
podcast
Facebook page. I'm sorry, I didn't have that one up.
Yeah, Susan says it is a toddler bed. We have more. I don't have a way to do it though. I've got 4 mics. on my mixer, and all 4 are in use. I can't get Susan on one, so. And she's over
Great
there like,
pictures.
darn right you're not getting me on a microphone. All right, I'm sorry, guys. Should we actually try this news again?
Yeah. Now, do you want to bring us back so you can introduce the Matt and Shelley?
Yeah. Well, it's Jesse and Shelley.
Sorry.
That's all right. I got to keep them straight in my head, too, man. So, all right, here we go. Coming back in 5. Hey, and welcome back. What we're going to do to start the news segment, this is, yeah, it's kind of news still, but I want to bring in Jesse and Shelley. Jesse is Jesse Shield. Shelley is Sorensen, and you've heard Shelley on the show a couple, 3 times. She's going to be, well, both of them are going to be doing some work for me. You all know that I started the Great Plains Second Amendment Society a little over a year ago when I was doing the public speaking thing and doing some rallies, and I had to really back burner that thing. I do so much work with trucking, and then just about as much work, not quite hours-wise, but I do a lot of work with this. My time to put towards Great Plains Second Amendment Society has gone to 0. And I've just been open, but on the back burner. We post to that Facebook site every once in a while, and I never got the website up and running. Well, they stepped up. They're going to be helping me out a lot. And so we wanted to bring them back on and have them talk a little bit. Now, guys, you were planning on doing a family shooting day, and that's going to be in July, right?
August.
That's right, middle of August. And then nothing has really come as far as a date for the food drive, but you're still going to be doing this. You're going to be doing it under the Great Plains Second Amendment Society banner now, right?
Correct.
And what they're also going to be doing is taking over the Facebook page, doing most of the posting to that, and I just wanted to bring you on and talk a little bit about now that family shoot is coming up. What are the dates for that?
It's August 23rd.
August 23rd, and that's going to be kind of you set that up as a potluck and a shoot, right? It's just family day is what it sounds like.
Basically, yeah, just get together, have some food, and have some fun.
Okay, all right, cool. That's going to be at the Beersford. What's the name of that? It's not the Beersford Gun Club, is it?
Yeah, actually, that's their name.
That
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
That is. Wow. Okay. I got something right. How about that?
Good guess.
So and then one thing, what's the range fees for that day? You do have to pay something to get in, right?
It's just $5 for 18 and over. Anybody who is under 18 can still shoot, but they have to have an adult, and they won't have to pay.
Oh, okay, very cool. So, but I want to thank you for helping me out with Great Plains Second Amendment Society, and for coming on to work with that, and for bringing the things you guys are doing under the Great Plains Second Amendment Society banner. I wish I had the time to put to it. I just don't, and I want to thank you two for doing that for me.
Yeah, that's not a problem. No, we totally understand that with your being busy with everything else, they need a little bit of help, and our schedule's cleared up quite a bit now, so I have not a single problem with that.
It's happy as something local, so.
Yeah. So if you guys, and I would like to encourage listeners, if you haven't, because I haven't pushed it in a while, if you haven't went over to facebook.com/GT2AS, please go there and like the page. Most of what you're going to see there, that's going to be done by Jesse and by Shelley, but I stick my head in there every once in a while. So, but like that page, you'll get a lot of information about what's going on in the Upper Great Plains area, and we're going to pretty much focus it on the Great Plains area. Is what I was envisioning of that when we started. So let's go ahead and head off to news then, and I believe John, you got the first one, right?
I do. On Wednesday, the Second Amendment Foundation filed a federal lawsuit in U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of North Carolina, challenging North Carolina's restriction of their concealed handgun permits to only U.S. citizens. The lawsuit was filed on behalf of Felicity Todd Vesey, an Australian citizen and a permanent legal resident who has lived in North Carolina for at least the last 10 years. She currently resides in a little town called Butner with her husband and stepdaughter, who are both U.S. citizens. The suit asked the U.S. District Court to declare the law unconstitutional based upon the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and because it also violates her Second Amendment rights. And this is just another in the series of suits brought by the Second Amendment Foundation on gun rights based upon citizenship or what's called alienage. Interestingly enough, the North Carolina General Assembly had a chance to change this law, was asked to do it, but blew it off in the short session. They're going to have to be changing it sooner than later, and it'll probably cost them more money than if they had done it the first time.
Yeah, John, I'm remembering, I think SAF just won this case. Most recently, I'm thinking New Mexico. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so the North Carolina Treasury will now pay for the legislators' laziness.
True.
Just spending taxpayer money like it's no big deal.
Like it's somebody else's money.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Matt, I think you got the next one, man.
Nope. Gary?
Gary, I'm sorry.
I'll grab one in here in the middle. On Thursday, U.S. District Court Judge Marcia Krieger upheld the Colorado laws that mandated background checks for private sales and that limited magazine capacity to 15 rounds. In her 50-page opinion, she said, evidence shows that large capacity magazines are frequently used in gun violence and mass shootings. She also said that more competent defensive shooters need fewer rounds to hit their target, which must explain why police officers routinely have larger, or as we call them, standard capacity magazines. Judge Krieger, in a footnote, also confuses the AR-15 with the M16, and it has become the unfortunate norm among many federal judges. Krieger used the intermediate scrutiny standard to make her decision.
You know, this doesn't sound like a legal decision. This sounds like a political decision from a judge who really knows nothing about firearms or really knowing very much about the criminal use of firearms. Anybody want to correct me because I misread it?
I wish I could correct you.
Exactly.
Right on, man.
Well, my wife knows how. It's not hard.
I hear you there, man. I hear you there.
Okay.
All right. Now, Matt, I do think you're up with the next one.
Yep. 163 Democratic members of the U.S. House of Representatives have signed an open letter to House Speaker John Boehner demanding a vote on gun control measures. This is about 80% of the total number of Democrats in the House. Given the timing of this letter, it seems this group of legislators think that running gun control is a winning topic for the Democrats, despite a majority of U.S. Americans being opposed to more gun control.
My comment is, I said, yes, let's go ahead and make gun control an issue. We need more pro-gun congressmen and women, and I think this would help mobilize gun owners to get out and actually vote, rather than just sitting at home and say, well, Bob will take care of this for us.
I think this is a very political calculation. The politicians, and more accurately their campaign managers, are placing their campaign bets. Yes, they expect to get bad publicity from the rank-and-file citizen when they come out supporting gun control. But they think that that will be offset by fawning press reports that gets their name in the papers and by campaign donations from anti-gun groups. So I think if we put our money where our mouth is, politicians wouldn't do these things.
Yeah, they're after Bloomberg's money. I mean, that's
Yep.
Yeah, and that's
Only
they're
50 million?
yeah, yeah.
Yes, and in that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Gary.
Go, Gary.
In that letter, they stated there were 74 mass shootings since Sandy Hook.
Oh.
And when I posted this article up on my Firearm Safety Institute Facebook page, I said, well, showing they are either stupid or have never heard of CNN, who already debunked that fact.
Yeah.
Well,
we
but-
covered it here, well, 4 or 5 episodes ago we covered that, right? We debunked that here.
The
Yes,
initial
we
debunking,
did.
yeah, a couple
Yeah.
episodes ago.
But Gary, watch what's going to happen. A bunch of fawning press are going to. They could have made it 1,074 murders, and a bunch of fawning press would have just taken that press release and published it as gospel.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Rob's right with that one.
And you got to think that with all the gerrymandering that's going on, these 163 Democrats have got safe seats. They're not on the bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some yes, some no. It's still a campaign bet.
Yeah.
Oh, John, didn't you talk about something like this where somebody put up was it a hospital? They put up a anti-gun comment, and you jumped on it, and they retracted it.
I did. I did that in either Wednesday or last Saturday's. Oh no, it had to be on Wednesday's personal notes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, to me, it sounds like any press that pick up this mistaken. Oh yeah, we just accidentally published the article that's 5 times an exaggeration. Maybe if enough people comment and call it a lie, they'll take it down.
There you go.
Our local KSFY here in Sioux Falls published that same story, and me and a few others had complained about it and told them to check their facts. And they claimed to have done that and aired it for a second time, the same exact way that they aired it the first time.
Did you? I mean,
Don't
there's-
bother me with the facts. I've got my opinion.
Yeah, we in our show notes for that episode, and I'll look it up before you go home tonight. But we pretty much laid it out that I think it was 2/3 of those were not school shootings at all. They weren't, they were gang-related shootings, and most of them weren't even on school property.
I know. I told them that, look into these. Actually take the time and check these stories out. And I talked to the actual person who wrote this said story. And again, it still aired. It
Wow.
fell on deaf ears.
Yeah, and I personally, I don't watch that channel here in Sioux Falls.
Neither do I.
So, well, you had
sorry,
to at least once.
What
I actually heard it from a friend of mine who saw the story.
Oh, okay.
So
what channel is that?
KSFY.
Isn't worth watching in Sioux Falls.
Yeah, there you go.
know.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next story. I got this one. The National Shooting Sports Foundation has just released a report this week that detailed the impact of hunters and target shooters on the economy. The $48 billion, yes, that's billion, spent by hunters and shooters is responsible for 866,000 jobs. That's more jobs than the state of South Dakota. And a total economic impact of, get this, $110 billion. Again, that's a B. The amount is spent is more than the annual retail sales of companies like Coke, FedEx, and Disney. To put it in even greater perspective, the number of jobs, 866,000, would make it the world's 7th largest employer. The data used in the report comes from the 2011 statistics. Imagine what it is now after post-Newtown boom in sales of firearms and ammo.
This a buddy of mine fishes. He also hunts, but I've learned you never ask him how much that fish or pound of venison really cost. It's
oh yeah, just in licensing alone, you're looking at a chunk of change.
Yeah, but God bless them, because really they're taking care of the environment. They're funding a lot of our hunting and fishing and outdoor activities.
Looking at it like this, the people who claim to be environmentalists, who do you think is more involved in environmental? Somebody who is out there using the environment, the woods and the great outdoors as it really is. Do you think somebody who goes out there and hunts and actually goes out there and fishes, they're out there to preserve the environment? They're not going to, even more than the people that don't hunt, they're going to make sure that they don't overhunt, because they want deer out there in future years. They want deer out there, or rabbit or squirrel or whatever. They want fish out there for their children, for their grandchildren, for their great-grandchildren, as compared to somebody who sits in their Malibu house and wants to look on the right side of things and just jumps on their jet and really doesn't care about what happens out in the middle of nowhere.
Paul, you know what that brings to mind? When I was growing up, I remember I used to read about guys like organizations like Ducks Unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
They'd have acreage set aside for feed, for habitat for ducks to hide in as they migrate, and they'd even put in some, essentially extend a farmer's stock pond for migratory waterfowl.
Mm-hmm.
And it just occurred to me, great, now the EPA has turned that into habitat, and everything becomes litigious, and you can get sued for every duck pond you put in.
Oh yeah, well,
It's
that's happening. Yeah, it's happening up in Washington. People are there's cases where a guy put in a place for that, and they got sued, and he's like, I'm trying to help the environment, but yet the EPA decided that it wasn't the right kind of help or something like that. So
you didn't get our permit first.
Exactly.
And pay us money.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, John, I think you got the next one, man.
I do. And it's one of these stories that just makes you want to say, what the heck? Back in March, a legal concealed carry permit holder saved the life of the manager of Keith's Superstore, which is a convenience store in Lumberton, Mississippi. The permit holder stopped the thief in the act of stabbing the manager, had a knife to her chest. He did so without having to fire a shot, and he held the thief until the police and EMS arrived. The store manager was brought to the hospital, survived, was in critical condition, but survived. Okay, let's fast forward 3 months. It now seems that the owners of Keith's Superstore have posted no gun signs on the door of the store, and when they were asked about this, were actually very rude to the caller, who questioned why they posted it against carry. And my comment is, they still haven't posted no knife signs on the door, but can you say ungrateful?
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And I bet you it wasn't the manager that made that decision.
No, it was the owners.
Mm.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, but I think I've heard that a lot of those signs don't have the force of law, meaning if you concealed carry in that store and they ask you to leave, you go, do you want me to pay for my groceries or just leave them here?
Yeah.
Essentially, there's no if you refuse to leave, you could be charged with trespass, but
Right.
but not obeying their no gun sign is not itself a crime.
I don't know Mississippi law, but I believe that is the case.
I want you to listen to this next story and, unfortunately, hear your future. Clark Aposian could be said to be Utah's top gun lobbyist, and he had his guns taken away after a domestic dispute with his ex-wife. Aposian was charged with disorderly conduct, domestic violence in the presence of a child, criminal mischief, and threats of violence. All this for sounding an air horn in a residential neighborhood. Aposian was arrested last year after he drove his deuce-and-a-half surplus military vehicle to his ex-wife's house when he went to pick up his daughter. He quotes, "I've been cleared of all these untrue and unfounded allegations. I've been vindicated. It's unfortunate that it took over a year to have that happen at great cost to the taxpayers and Cottonwood Heights, that's the subdivision, as well as at great cost to myself. Last year, a court ordered that Aposyan could not possess any firearms in light of the protected order issued against him. Aposyan said Monday that that protective order has been dismissed and he can have his guns back.
You and I hear days in court.
Yeah.
A
And
lot of
lawyers
time.
hear cash registers ring. I'm still confused why divorce lawyers are said to practice family law, since it seems to be just the opposite.
Yes. We'll trash your family and take half your money. One of my friends used to thrill the little boys in the neighborhood because he would drive his grandson to school in the company dump truck. And this is one of those monster trucks. That wasn't harassment. It wasn't domestic violence. This really sounds like a couple conducting lawfare on each other, using their lawyers as blunt instruments.
You know, that reminds me, when my sons were in high school, I took my big truck, no trailer, but bobtailed the tractor in to their football game. And when they scored a touchdown, man, that air horn. So, yeah, it's...
So
That's
if you make-
disturbing the peace, Paul. I don't know that you should admit that on the radio.
Well, and then this, we several times in the last few weeks, we've talked about just that, and it's the trying to remember the name of the former senator from New Jersey passed away while he was in office.
That describes most of them. They're just still standing up. Which one are you thinking of?
No,
He's talking about Lautenberg.
that's
Oh,
it. The Lautenberg Amendment. That's what started all this
The
off.
guy who looked embalmed for years.
It
Gotcha.
really looks that way now. But nothing good ever came out of that thing. And this is just another. And Clark Aposyan, he is a huge force for gun rights in Utah, and truly one of the good guys.
Paul, do you remember we talked about Washington, D.C. has a domestic violence gun ban that's being contested. Their city council passed it, but their mayor, who am I thinking of? Mayor Gray said, nah, we're going to get sued. Their legal counsel said, who cares? Let them sue. Oh, it was just so blatant. It was nasty in D.C.
Wow. Yeah.
And of course, law enforcement officials beat their wives or girlfriends at nearly double the rate of the rest of the population. And trying to control that is not only difficult for the victims, but potentially deadly, experts say. The trouble in lies the very nature of police work. One of those hallmarks of a good cop is the ability to radiate authority and control, and in the wrong hands, those characteristics can be misused and lead to domestic intimidation and violence.
It's a tough job.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes quite the character to keep it from corroding your family life.
Yeah. Well, with what's the old saying? With great power comes great responsibility. We give the police a great deal of power, and in my opinion, only in certain circumstances they have more power than they should. But that's that's political. That's they still do. The police do a great job, and it's under a difficult circumstance. 99.9% of them do an amazing job that I know I wouldn't want to do.
But wouldn't you say that when you see that they have more power than they should, isn't that them exercising poor responsibility of that power, as opposed to it being too much power?
Yeah, I think a lot of them just assume like an extra legal amount of power. I think about that cop in Canton, Ohio, when the guy didn't inform him quick enough that he was a concealed carry holder. The cop saying, "I could kill you here," nobody would question it.
Right.
Well,
and
and
my
the
conscience
cop-
will be clear. Yeah.
The cop got off. The cop was right. He's above the law.
Well, he did get off, but he did lose his job.
I think he was allowed to resign. I think his union got in the way of keeping him of letting him actually get fired.
Well,
Gary, you had something you wanted to say.
Well, are we talking about the concealed carry permit holder who spent 5 minutes trying to show the police officer his permit?
Yep, that's the one.
I think I posted up that article. I don't think he was fired. Did you guys see somewhere that he was fired?
I think he was suspended, and then he claimed PTSD.
I know he no
Might
longer
have-
had the job.
But he might be out on, quote, disability.
You know what? I'll make it a point. I'll have to look into that, but I don't think he's getting public money anymore. Period, unless it's welfare. So
That's one thing I noticed too is these cops that are involved in these questionable cases where the normal average person thinks that the police did something completely and utterly wrong and immoral. A lot of times they are allowed to resign, or their captains completely clear them of any wrongdoing. Now, what's out there policing these police?
well,
YouTube and shows like ours.
yeah, pretty much.
Oh,
I was one of the lucky ones who got to grow up in a house with a police officer. My dad was a police chief, so I got to see the other end of it too.
Mhm.
Tell us about that other end of it.
It actually gets kind of scary. I had threats to myself. It's a
Yes.
small town, so everybody finds out about it right away, and it gets stopped. But I couldn't drive anywhere without somebody knowing who I was. My dad would joke with me. Honestly, we had a funny story. We had a centennial in our small town, and my hubcap came off. I had 2 cops pull me over just to tell me I had stuff flying from my car just to embarrass me.
Wow.
But yeah, it is scary. My dad was one of those though that he didn't feel he was above the law. He was very respected where we were at.
I've met some cops who know what they could get away with, and make an extremely moral choice to remind themselves that they're armed citizens. They're just fantastic people.
And I've met a few also that
Yeah.
he knew that we just won't talk about.
Well, and it's not in the show notes, but one thing I think is important that we do bring up, and it's not gun related, but in the Supreme Court this week, there was a ruling that if you are that without a warrant, the police do not have the right to go through your cell phone data.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Just since we're talking about the police, I think that's a fantastic ruling. It was a unanimous ruling from the Supreme Court in that. So no, I'm sorry. That was a 5-4. The unanimous ruling was the really slapping down of the Obama administration on their appointment to the Labor Board. Yeah, National Labor Relations Board. That was the unanimous ruling. The only part that wasn't unanimous was they wanted they said they had to be. The majority said they had to be out of session for so many days. The minority said no, they have to declare themselves out of session. So yeah.
Paul,
But
I
anyway.
do need to correct you. Actually, it was a unanimous decision.
Oh,
on
it
the cell
was.
phone. They both were unanimous,
Oops.
Okay.
which was great. I mean, it really is good that there was some unanimity on stuff like that.
Cool. We got one more story. Gary, I think you're up, man.
Right, back to police officers. Once again, we know they're not there to save us. We are the first responders. An arrest was made Wednesday after 2 bodies were found along a rural road in southeastern Wisconsin earlier this month. One of the bodies was identified as a woman reporting missing late last year. A West Dallas man, 57-year-old Stephen Zelich, was taken into custody in the death investigation. Police identified Zelich as a former West Dallas police officer. The second victim found locked in a trunk alongside the road has not yet been identified.
Oy vey.
But remember, only the police and military should own guns.
Yeah, with 15 rounds in their mags, because they are the only guys who face a threat. Wow.
Yeah.
Or 30.
Or 30. Oh, thank you. I forgot that.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to the gun quote. Looks like they assigned it to me this episode. And this one is from economist and Marine Corps veteran Dr. Thomas Sowell. If you are not prepared to use force to defend civilization, then be prepared to accept barbarism. Hang on, everybody. We'll be right back right after this. Okay, let's. When we come back, Gary, I'd like for you and I to do our little thing about why I'm not there and some of the idiocies of the Illinois rules. But when we very first come back, since you did the interview, Rob, could you bring us back and talk about that interview for a few seconds, and then we'll take over from there? So in the show, the way it's going to run is we're going to go into the John Cardillo interview right out of news, and then we'll come back, and Gary and I will talk about Illinois concealed carry law and why I'm not in Illinois. And then after that, in about, it's what, 40 minutes, Ben Branam will be here. After Gary and I do our thing, we'll do the Ben Branam interview, and then we'll go to DGU's email and all that.
Okay.
Okay.
So you want me to pull us back as a comment and lead into you and Gary? Yeah, bring us in with commentary, because I have not heard that interview. Okay.
Just bring us in with a little bit of commentary about the interview, and then throw to Gary and I.
5 seconds.
Oh, hang on. It would be helpful if I did this. Just a minute. I'm an idiot. What episode number is this?
248.
Yeah, did you guys hear that coffee pot in the background? That was friggin' annoying.
It wasn't stopping.
The funny thing is we have that same exact coffee pot at home.
Don't do that at home. I didn't think it was going to stop.
That microphone.
Oh.
It's all your fault.
Sorry, it's too good.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
not
go to your head
directional.
now.
You know, I hear it's great at detecting, minor earth tremors and stuff.
They could probably pick up a
Or was that your stomach?
I was
just going to say my stomach probably should grow.
All right, let's, Rob, whenever you're ready.
5. Hi, and welcome back. I had a lot of fun talking to John Cardillo. Fascinating guy. And, one of those guys, and I guess when you think about it, this is part of the profession of being a police officer. You talk to him, and you get in a conversation almost instantly. Fascinating guy. I hope we'll have him on later. Again, the article that he wrote says, this is the title, "I used to come for your guns. Now I support your right to defend yourself." And as he says, more and more police officers, because think of it, if there's a reason to be armed, it's police officers who see it day after day after day. Citizens are involved in a violent altercation. Once it's over, they can make a phone call to get the police started. Obviously, they're going to arrive too late in the vast majority of situations.
Absolutely.
Paul, you, it's not like I'm trying to throw you off your own show, particularly on the weekends, but you weren't scheduled to be here. And then there's some adventure with you in Illinois.
Yeah.
Arrest warrants again, or what?
No. What I was supposed to be at Gary's place this weekend, and we had this all set up. We set up 3-4 weeks ago, Gary, something like that.
Yeah.
And
you had mentioned on the show you were interested in getting your permit before the Gun Rights Policy Conference, which is going to be here in Illinois, and I was excited to meet you, train you, and I think you were looking forward to getting that permit. And then at the last minute, another instructor called me. couple of guys call me and for run stuff by. We do that back and forth with instructors. And he said, "I've got a student in Wisconsin said he can't apply for a permit." I said, "What?" So I started doing some research, and it turns out that the state of Illinois, the state police, sent a questionnaire to all the other 49 states and said, how are you reporting voluntary registration into mental health facilities and involuntary mental health facilities? Are those being reported to the NICS system? And there's a dozen or so states that didn't respond at all, and only 4 so far checked all the boxes. Hawaii, go figure, you can't even get a permit there.
Yeah.
New Mexico, South Carolina, and there was another one recently added, I can't remember what it was, that, like I said, checked all the boxes that the state police needs for someone to be able to get a Illinois concealed carry permit, even though we're charging you double for that permit, what the residents pay. And so I called Paul and I said, I have terrible news. And
yeah, I was stunned because just thinking, I am not a lawyer. I do not play one on TV. I certainly don't play one on this podcast. But I have read the Constitution. I have read the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment is an equal protection clause. It's also the one that ended slavery. But at any rate, basically what it says is you can't treat one citizen different than a different citizen, that everybody's the same. And I think it is just, again, I'm not an attorney, but isn't it, it comes to my mind that because I live in South Dakota, I'm being discriminated against by Illinois. If Illinois is going to issue them to anybody out of state, they ought to be able to issue them to, they ought to be required to issue them to everybody that lives out of state.
Right. It's absolutely right.
So, I'm not an attorney. I don't want to be the test case, by the way.
Well, Paul, that brings up some. Actually, what it reminds me of is what the Pennsylvania Attorney General recently did. She went through she's anti-gun. She went through other states' licensing and rescinded Pennsylvania's reciprocity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it sounds that's effectively what Illinois is doing, except it's not only that we won't grant reciprocity, we'll keep you from applying. Now, think of all the different classes of extenuating circumstances they could want to examine. Gary just brought up mental health reporting. Oh, but your state reports domestic violence differently than Illinois. How about debts and bankruptcy, driving infractions, DUIs? Are they reported the same way? Oh, see, your limits, your alcohol limits and what they were driving and their age, that's different than ours, so we can't grant you we can't even let you apply because you could be a drunk and we might miss it. Or even the very definition of felony versus misdemeanor convictions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can find excuses. Come on, we're talking about Chicago politicians here, right?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. But you bring up a good point with driving infractions and DUI reporting. Could Illinois then not accept out-of-state driver's license because that information is reported differently?
Oh Christ! Have you just opened up a can of whip ass for a bunch of Chicago politicians?
If they do that, that's going to be the dumbest thing they could ever do because almost all their food has to come in from trucks, and most of them I see are not Illinois trucks.
Yeah.
Well, it was just a hypothetical, but that's my point is that those out-of-state truck drivers are coming into Illinois with that food, and they can't have a Illinois concealed carry permit, and we won't accept their out-of-state permit.
Yeah.
And
well, I guess what you go, Matt.
It's my whole problem with it is that we're not talking. I mean, reciprocity is one thing, okay. Reciprocity, they do kind of. Every other state has the right to say whose permit they will and whose permit they will not accept, and that's cool. But if you're going to take out-of-state applicants, it seems to me the 14th Amendment demands that you treat all states equally, and that if I apply from South Dakota, that my out-of-state application ought to be just the same as somebody applying from Alaska, California, Georgia, wherever.
Well, it actually even gets down to a constitutional issue, not even Bill of Rights, Article 4, Section 1 of the Constitution, the full faith and credit clause that says that all states within the U.S. have to respect the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state, which is why driver's licenses are accepted. If you have a New York license, it's accepted in Chicago. If you have a North Carolina license, it's accepted in Alaska.
Mm-hmm. And as they're very fond of pointing out to us in driving school, there is no right to drive. It's a privilege.
Yeah.
So then why is concealed permits issued from one state not acceptable in other states?
Should be.
Because federal judges are political appointments, not nominated for their judicial merit.
There you go.
Me, Paul, and I at the Gun Rights Policy Conference, and we'll hit Alan Gurr up and see what he says.
Okay, that'll be great.
All right. Well, that's just I wanted to get into that today. That's why Gary's here. We were going to be, if we were able to technically do it, we were going to be doing this at Gary's place tonight. But the whole thing with South Dakotans aren't good enough to get Illinois. I have already went through enough firearms training to smoke any qualifications they have.
Absolutely.
I just. All right. Well, that's what's going on there. What I'd like to do then, let's go ahead and step aside here one more time, and when we come back, we've got our DGUs coming up. Hang on, everybody. Right back, right after this.
Now, I have a question for Rob. Back when you earlier in the show.
In one second, Jesse. I'm sorry, Jesse. Trace through which. I'm getting both. I'm getting multiple comments that your mic is sounding really bad. So.
Is it?
Yes. So let's see.
I hear voices. Am I hearing the TV?
No, I think that's your medication wearing up.
Could be.
I did hear a baby. So you guys want to hug your mic, so that they hug your mic, pot it down, and that way we won't get some.
This okay? Just one second. I'm gonna pod this one all the way down and speak. Okay, that is you. Okay.
No, I hear something like extra.
All right, and again.
Hello.
A little more.
Hello. Anybody out there?
How are you guys hearing him?
Really quiet.
Really quiet.
I
Okay.
can't hear myself.
Sing a song, Jesse.
Okay, now I'm going to adjust for them first, then I'll adjust for us. Okay. I got to rely on you guys to see how he's doing. Is he still low?
Hello.
I can't hear you.
I can't even hear him.
I can't hear you either.
Okay, how about now?
Hello. Hello. Is there any
Barely.
Okay.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Because I got him almost cranked now.
Is it possible he's number 2?
I don't hear.
No,
you.
you're number 2.
Oh, I was on the far side. That's where you plugged me in.
Uh-oh. That could be it. That's it.
It's good thing you're paying attention.
Okay, now because I turned up Matt a lot then. Something's not right here. Just a second, guys.
Do I have
think
time
you-
to go get a beverage?
You certainly do.
Yeah, I think you were adjusting 2, 3, and 4.
No, 3 I never touched.
No, looked like it from this angle. Sorry.
Number 3 was Shelly. I think. I'm gonna unplug it. Shelly, speak into your mic, please. Okay. Now speak into your mic again.
Hello?
That was through. Speak.
Oh.
That hurt.
That did hurt.
That hurt me. That's me.
Hello.
My power's on.
Okay, you are number. Oh, good God, that
He's trying to make
hurts.
us go down.
Okay.
Don't unplug the power. All right, so he's number 2.
Okay.
Difficulties.
All right. Is that better?
Now, Jesse,
Hello.
John, Gary, can you hear him now?
Well,
Hello.
Uh-uh.
Hello.
I don't even hear you online.
Did he mute it?
I bet you did.
Hello?
Oh, there, jeez. Now I've got you
There you
cranked. I bet you just came blasting through. Okay.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Check 1, 2.
Okay.
Right, okay.
All right, I think we got her all traced out.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Fats. Thank you, Susan.
Anyway, I wanted to go back to Rob on that. When you were firing out of that pickup truck.
Yeah.
If a person were to actually do that with an actual intact window, what would be the, if any, harm that could possibly succumb to the occupants of the vehicle? With flying glass and that kind of.
There's at shallow angles, you're going to get some glass coming both inside and outside the vehicle. You're going to have severe permanent hearing loss.
You're gonna. Now I'm loud. I'm very loud to me. Okay.
Maybe you're off your medication.
Are you still recording,
gonna-
Paul?
No, we're not. Well, we're still live on YouTube, but we're not recording right now. You're going to hear a lot about that when Ben and I talk. He's coming in.
You
at
are
8 o'clock.
covering that later on?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So I want to know, like, as far as, because they didn't have the opportunity to use an actual window because there wasn't a back window in that truck. I mean, I know there are your differences too between different kinds of glass, and you got your windshield glass, which is safety glass, compared to where some of them side windows and back windows on pickups aren't of that
Safety
same
glass,
grade
yeah.
as.
They're tempered, but maybe not safety. And if you shoot a piece of glass at a shallow angle, you're going to get. Man, you'd want your passenger down on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
dump
about
the belt.
as the shooter?
Oh, stuff coming back at you?
Right.
No, no,
No,
I don't.
not
I don't
really.
think so.
Because the force you're applying is blowing stuff out. Even the hot gases that are not part of what your projectile is, the hot gases are still pushing outwards.
Okay.
If you were to fire a blank, you can feel a blank a very long distance away. So
Right.
Nothing's going to be blowing back at you as far as a glass or anything like that, but you will never, ever, ever hear the same again.
Right. Do you think that would also have any effect on bullet trajectory after
Yeah,
it goes through
most
that?
definitely.
So you're not only is it not hearing well or well for your hearing ability, the ability to actually hit your target out of a closed window,
And
greatly.
that's obviously heavy enough glass, shallow enough angle, huge change in trajectory.
Yeah.
If you get within 30 degrees of normal at 5 yards shooting a 45, that's I don't care whether it's tinted glass or not. It's not even concealment.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Excuse me.
I was just amazed today. They had a bunch of wooden timbers up, and a 45 just sliced right through it. At shallow, I'm just impressed what a big heavy slug doesn't care about a couple grams of glass in its way.
Okay. Saved that, so now I just got to come over here. All right. Are we? Yeah, I think we are ready for DGUs. Just two GG.
Yeah.
Just two DGUs today. I cannot talk.
Have another drink.
I think I will.
Now the question is, what do you have in that cup?
Wouldn't you like to know? It is the rot gut stuff. Diet Mountain Dew. Straight up, man. Straight up.
Party animal.
Okay. Thank you again, Mr. Pats, for bringing that up. I hope the problem's resolved for everybody. Okay, John, I do want you to bring us in this time because you do have the first one.
Alrighty. Are you ready?
Yep.
In 5. Hi, and welcome back to the Polite Society Podcast DGU segment. Our first one comes from Philadelphia. Sharon Doyle forgot her firearm when she went to work on Monday. But she did the smart thing. She went back home and retrieved her .38 special revolver. And that decision probably saved her life. Because a robber came into her health food store with a knife and announced that this was a robbery. After going behind the counter and forcing the register open, he held a knife to Doyle's chest. She had previously served as both a Philadelphia police officer and as a Secret Service agent, and she credits her training with saving her life. She said, quote, "I just went into a mode like, this is what has to be done. One of us is walking out the door, and it's going to be me." She then shot the unidentified robber in the torso and called police. He was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead on arrival. She said she didn't regret her actions. She said, "It might have saved somebody else because he looked like he was on a mission. So if I wouldn't have been here, it would have been somewhere else."
Good on her.
Absolutely.
Rachel often uses the comment, "I'm not lucky enough. I can't guess when I might need to carry, so I carry all the time." And this officer knew that there are times when she had to be armed or be lucky, and she decided to be both.
Yeah. What is interesting is, what just kind of struck me is, I never heard of health food stores being a target for robberies. Are they going to, steal Sprouts or wheatgrass juice or?
No, but I mean, look at it. Look at how much
their
they
money's
charge.
a different color?
Yeah, they charge a lot
True.
of money for that stuff they sell. You're not going to go in there and spend $2.98 and come out with anything really that'll more than a mouthful
That's
of
true.
anything. So when people go in there, they spend a lot of money for what they bring out.
Well, the story also went on to say that when the EMS arrived, he was still clutching, a $20 bill or $50 bill in his hand, and it was as they was carting him off to the hospital. So,
No, wow.
but
That's
good on her
called
for
paying the ultimate price, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and along the
Gary,
lines
you
of
had
what
something?
you were saying. Yeah, along the lines of what you're saying, I get this comment in class a lot, in the concealed carry class too often. I'm only going to carry when I'm going to some place that's not safe. And I try and dissuade that attitude because you just don't know. You would think a health food store would be the safest place on the block, but you never know where they're going to strike.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It reminds me of something that Tom Givens, who's a trainer out of Memphis, statistics he's kept on people who've gone through his concealed carry class. He's had, I think, somewhere between 56 to 60 of his students have been in an actual gunfight.
Wow.
Only
Yeah, but he works out of Memphis, right?
Right.
He's in
But
Memphis.
only,
Yeah.
He's a national trainer, though. Only 2, if I'm remembering this right, of his students that have been in a gunfight did not win that gunfight. Those 2 were not
carrying.
armed at the time.
Yep.
That says something about that is why you need training.
It's also
All right.
why if you're going to carry.
Yes. Yes. Agreed.
What a profound statement. I've had 60 of my students robbed. All of them won the gunfight, except the ones that weren't carrying. Holy cow.
That is right.
Alan Corwin can't quite put that up on a billboard, but it ought to be.
Pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. Rob,
Well,
you got the next one, man.
We have another example. 2 men are in the hospital following an attack in Chino Hills, California. This happened at about 2 a.m. when Rayvon Wooden broke into the home of his ex-girlfriend and her parents. Wooden then hid in the garage, and when the girl's father went to investigate noises in his garage, Wooden attacked him, stabbed him several times. Fortunately, the father was armed and shot Wooden, ending the attack. Both men are being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Wooden faces charges of burglary as well as attempted murder.
Wow.
There's a guy who's glad he was carrying.
Yes. Amen. And then we haven't said it for a while, but it was said very often on the podcast, and I think it's time to bring it back. Nothing good happens after midnight.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
And that is why you still carry when you're in your home.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'd like to remind everybody we do have links to each of our news and defensive gun use articles at politesocietypodcast.com if you'd like to share them with a friend. We're going to go ahead and head off to our tips and tricks segment, and we'll be right back after that to close up the show. Hang on, everybody. Right back after this. Still got 16 minutes or 14 minutes before Ben is scheduled to be here.
Oh. Okay.
I don't have any emails. Anybody else have any?
A guy gave us a DGU in Texas, but Scott Gibbons sent it in, but I chose not to use it.
Okay.
Not an email, just a link to a. Yeah. You know what? If you tee it up, I'll say one of our listeners gave me sent in a DGU and a link to some gun news on the web. So let me say thank you to Scott Gibbons.
Okay.
Who does that look like to you right now?
What's that?
Who does that look like to you?
Yeah, it does kind of look like Rob.
You kind of got a twin here.
Hold it right up next to the. I'll keep talking so it stays on my camera. Hold it up kind of close to the top of this computer screen, so it gets nice. There you go. There you go, Rob. Apparently, you have a cousin or a brother up here.
You have a twin.
Twinsies. What can I say?
All right.
Good news after that little fiasco is I figured out how to mute these mics from the outside.
Yours is the only mic that can be muted.
Oh, is it?
Yes. I can mute everybody, but yours is the only one that you can mute.
I must have bumped that one when you wanted me to trace lines down and figure out what was going on with that one.
All right. Let's go ahead and record the show close, and then I'm gonna head to the restroom. Rob, you want to go ahead and bring us in, and then mention that we don't have any email other than, and then yada yada.
I'll do it. 5 seconds. Hi, and welcome back. This is our email discussion. We don't have any email letters, but I want to give a shout out of thanks to Scott Gibbons for sending in some news and DGUs. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. We do appreciate all the listeners that send us links to news stories and to DGU stories. We can't obviously. There's several of us, but we don't always catch every story. So I do want to say thank you to all our listeners that send in links and make us aware of stories, even if we don't get you mentioned on every show. But we do know you do it. We do thank you for it. Want to
Well,
mention that?
Paul,
Yes, sir.
it's really nice to have somebody at our back. Sometimes we miss something. You go, how'd I miss that?
Yeah,
Great
yeah,
to have them there.
yeah. Rob, you and I spend a lot of time going through news articles, but yeah, we miss them. John, I know you spend a lot of time going through news articles too. Every
Sure.
once in a while, I'll catch something on another podcast or I'll see it in the news and it's been out there a while. It's like, how did I miss that? But and even some of the emails we get from listeners, it's like that's new. So
On the other hand, I want to toot our horn. Sometimes I'll hear some, firearms news on conventional news sources, and I go, man, we didn't even cover that last episode. That was last week. So our listeners are pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah. Even occasionally, we'll get an email about something, and then the listeners will tell us something. We'll jump on it, and so it takes a couple days for it to get out there, and then a week after that, the news comes out on the regular news media. So I do want to remind everybody the Polite Society download app is out on Amazon for Android. The iPhone app is in iTunes, and it's called Podcast Box. Both of them are located by our old name, Politics and Guns, and we do have hot links in our show notes.
Also, please check out Kathy Jackson's Cornered Cat training classes. Her next class that still has seats available is the weekend of July 12th and 13th in Rob's favorite city name, Walla Walla, Washington. Go to corneredcat.com for more classes and details.
So at this point of the show, in the script, it tells me to ask Rob. Hey, Rob, do you have any new posts from your Slowfax blog you want to mention?
Why, thank you for that impromptu question. Why ever did you think of it? Well, okay, the rant that I did on Wednesday's show about crime in San Diego and our sheriff who's reluctant to let citizens defend themselves, that became a blog post. So thank you, Paul. Thank you, Polite Society Podcast. It turns out that in the county just north of me, to give you some perspective, annual CHL applications for carry permits have grown by tenfold year to year, and that's only as far as adding it up into May. They had like 500 last year. They've got over 5,000 this year.
Wow.
That's great.
Good.
Yeah,
That's good.
So it is. It's wonderful news. Now I just want to, inch by inch, turn the rest of California into a self-protection zone. John, is there anything on your blog you want to talk about?
Well, yeah, actually, I did a post today on what I call the world's most powerful handgun. Today marks the 100th anniversary of the day that Gavrilo Princip assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria, which was the spark that set off World War I, the war to end all wars. We often refer to pistols with calibers less than 9mm Luger or 38 Special as mouse guns. Well, it was a mouse gun, a Fabrique Nationale model 1910 in 380 auto that was used to start World War I.
Hey, John, I've stood on that bridge in Yugoslavia, and I've read the reports about how security was added and then removed from the motorcade where Archduke Ferdinand was shot. Yeah, Yugoslavia is a tough political nut.
Yeah, and Princip was a Bosnian Serb who wanted to have a unified Yugoslavia and wanted to kick the Austro-Hungarian Empire out, and that's why Franz Ferdinand was the heir apparent to be the next emperor of Austria, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and that's why he shot him and his wife.
Yeah, yeah.
And actually, The picture of the gun
Ferdinand
is.
was. Go ahead.
There's a museum in Vienna that has the car, the gun, and the couch that he died on. That Franz Ferdinand died on, which is kind of, interesting artifacts. We'll just leave it at that. But you were saying, Rob?
I think he froze up.
I think you did.
I don't. Go on, John. Matthew, you're next up.
All right. Also, please check out the Shooters Club by Bob Main and Ben Branam for $75 a year, $6.25 a month. You get 24/7 access to some fantastic training and audio podcasts you cannot get anywhere else.
I can back that up. I'm a member. They're great videos.
I'm a member as well, and yeah, they are amazing videos. You're especially Gary. I like they do new videos all the time, but I like going back to some of the very first ones they did on moving and shooting, and those are some really good videos from the earliest stuff they did.
You know, it's interesting you point that out because I did just watch that about 2 weeks ago, and even though it's not required for the Illinois concealed carry class, I had a group of advanced students, that were already shooters in this private class that I've been doing on the Thursdays, and so I added a little moving and shooting into it because it's not something that they would have thought about, and they all enjoyed it. So they enjoyed, adding a little extra moving. They were dry fire shooting, but it was still moving instead of standing still, which I would try to get everybody away from doing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Gary, that's a powerful training tip, and I hadn't realized it. Why do I dry fire standing still?
I can't answer that question.
I mean, that's how we've all been trained, right? Here, go dry fire standing still. What are you going to do when you shoot? Stand still. How about I dry fire on the move the way I hope I will be when I, if ever, have to shoot? Wow.
Yeah, my dry fire practice is IDPA, USPSA inspired as opposed to square range inspired.
There you go. I need to up my game. And by the way, for our listeners, if you're not sure you want to join the Shooters Club, go listen to Bob Main's podcasts. He'll convince you that he's got something to say. He's good.
Ben Branam as well.
Yeah.
Also,
there you go.
If you use the link in our show notes, you do help them out as well as helping us out. So that does wrap up another episode of the Polite Society podcast. Until the midweek show, everybody.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
I don't have it queued up, or I would.
I'm so glad that our editor has to fix all that.
Oh,
sorry,
yeah.
Paul.
Yeah. Here you go.
Gary,
You're fine. I'm going to have to fix it post anyway.
Gary, that's a great training tip. Why should I ever dry fire standing still? I learned something today. Thank you.
Right on. Good. I'm glad. Yeah, I actually had an experienced shooter was asking me about shooting down his stairs in his house. And he showed me his pose, standing wide open, spread eagle, right at the top of the stairs. I said, why are you standing out in the open? And he goes, I never thought of it. He goes, I said, you should be up against the corner of the wall, not standing out where somebody can see you and shoot you. He went, oh, yeah. I mean, it's just all those little things. Just keep your mind working. All the.
What the man say? It's obvious once somebody showed it to me, and I don't know why I didn't see it for the last 10 years. Yeah, all right.
All right. I need to run to the bathroom, and Ben should be signing on in the next few minutes, so I'll be right back.
Okay. Wash your hands.
Somebody yapping at me?
No, you're good.
No, okay. I didn't hear it. What?
Wash your hands.
Oh. Oh, good Lord. That hurts. How about I don't move and shoot because it hurts so much to move?
Okay, I know where the voices are coming from now. Her headset. Whatever she's listening to.
Who's she listening to?
Yeah, she's listening on delay so I can hear it.
Yeah,
I thought it was going crazy for her.
and that is so trippy to hear this podcast being done and then hearing.
Yeah. I was like, I hear. They're not in my head.
I'm not crazy, I swear it.
I figured out my voices. They're coming from your headset.
John, was that Mississippi story yours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. I finally found it.
I'm on
Yeah.
handgunlaw.us, and maybe this
Yeah,
allowed
somebody
any
just
place
walked
that
the
puts up a
concrete
sign
block and
that's
wound up my
visible
porch or laying on the concrete
at a
and
distance
sitting
of
on
not less than
my
10
chairs.
feet,
Lovely.
that carrying a pistol is
Yeah,
prohibited.
so
So they
I
have
got
added
my
that
phone blowing up going, you got somebody
prohibited
sitting
location
there?
sign.
That's my fault. That part of the shop and
Yeah, and some states, and
Not
Illinois
Nebraska.
may be the same, where
Nebraska.
they have an official
stuff in their home.
requirement
retreat.
type.
Yes, it's
I
a
wish I
very
was
specific sign put out by the state police, yes.
Yeah.
This does not appear to
South
be
Dakota's
a
better.
specific
That was
sign. It
bad
just
today.
must be visible, clearly readable at a distance of not less than 10 feet. So, just a visible sign, I guess.
Yeah.
Since Ben hasn't signed in, I'm going to run outside for a smoke fast. I can't hear you. I just hope you understand.
I don't. With e-cigarettes available now, why would anyone buy analog cigarettes? The police officer in Canton got $40,000 from the city on to retire,
Yikes.
Yeah.
and a retired officer ID, which of course allows him to still carry in exchange for his resignation.
Still don't see Ben on. Oh, shoot. That's why.
Why?
Okay, I got to make sure.
Could be worse. You could be listening to this. Uh-oh. She's pulling stuff off. We're gonna dance now.
Are you listening to him? Oh wow, why?
I don't know. It's funny though. I'm gonna let her seat listen to it though. Cuts into my glasses. My knee is killing me right now.
Okay, I just sent Ben the invitation into the Hangout. I didn't realize I hadn't done that yet.
Oops.
So he should be here any second.
You did it on purpose, Paul, so you could have a smoke, didn't you?
Oh, I think I sent him the wrong one too. Just a second.
Is it time for a nap? Yeah, he looks like Grandpa Roger.
There he is.
Oh, good. I did not send you the wrong. I thought I sent you the one to watch, not the one to join. But I'm glad I sent you the right one.
Well, hi guys.
Hey,
Hey, Ben.
How goes life? It looks like you guys got a full sound studio over there now.
we do. We have, of course, now this the gentleman just that my thumb is pointing at, just to my left here, Matt. He's a listener from Sioux City. Comes up lately every week, but usually every couple weeks. And that's his own microphone he brought up. He's thinking about starting his own podcast, and he went out and spent entirely too much money on a microphone and a recording setup. So he brought his own microphone up. And but yeah, we've got mixers, and we got 2 laptops. Actually, we've got 4 laptops at this table, a mixer, and all kinds of stuff. So we're high tech.
That is super high tech.
Spent entirely too much money on the system I have.
But it's nice nevertheless.
Yeah. Oh, it's a nice setup.
Mhm.
The other person you see on camera over to your left is Jesse Shield. Jesse is going to be helping me out with the Great Plains Second Amendment Society. You can't see her, but sitting off there's her hand is Shelley Sorensen. She's also going to be helping with the Great Plains Second Amendment Society. I started that about a year ago when I was doing some public speaking, and they're going to be kind of taking over the heavy lifting for that. So.
Well, that'd be great.
Ben, what I wanted mostly to talk about, we can talk about anything you want to, but what I mostly want to talk about, you and I have a little bit of as a professional driver, I have a little bit of a difference of opinion of some of the things you said on your episode about cars and guns. I'm going to give you a whole lot of respect and a whole lot of difference in opinion because you got a whole lot more fighting experience than I do. But I wanted to kind of talk back and forth about those and see where we meet and where we're different and where we come together on those things.
Well, that'd be cool. That's okay. You got a whole lot more driving experience than I do.
So okay. But we can talk about anything and everything you want to talk about. So we've already recorded the whole rest of the show. We're just your interview is the last part. We're gonna insert in. You'll come in. You're gonna be I think the second or third of 3 interviews we're going to have this week. So
cool.
I just want to make sure.
I fail. Terribly.
Okay. Make sure I'm recording on this side. Everybody ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay. And everybody else, everybody here, John, Rob, and Gary, if you want to jump in anytime. We can go 1 or 2 segments with this interview. Whatever. I'm willing to let this one breathe. So, coming back in 5. Hey, and welcome back. Joining us again this week, Ben Branam. Of course, Ben's been on the show before. You've heard him on our show. You ought to be listening to his show, Modern Self-Protection. That's a mostly weekly podcast. He misses a week every once in a while, but a really good show that he puts out. You also hear him a lot on Bob Main's show. And but I wanted to bring you on, Ben. Thank you first for coming. Wanted to bring you on to talk a little bit about guns and cars. You had a episode, about 2 episodes ago where you talked a lot about that, and I wanted to kind of hash some things out with you.
Okay, that'd be great.
When you were doing your episode, one thing you mentioned, the impression I got in listening to it, and I've listened to it twice all the way through now, that particular episode, you said that all vehicles are bullet magnets, and now I've got to defer to you on that one, because your fighting experience is so far beyond mine that because I've never been in a fight other than a fist fight, and I haven't been in one of those since I was in my early 20s, and that's a long time ago. But the impression I got was when you were doing that episode that you were more of what I recommend to people as a let me take it this route. What I recommend to people as a professional driver, and I've got more than just semi experience. I've taken, and I believe you said in your episode you've taken the EVOC course, Emergency Vehicle Operations course. Also, in my youth, I was into racing and into performance racing. But what I tell people is if you've got a car that is running, that can run, that can move, leave your gun in the holster. Use your car as either a weapon or an escape tool. It's better using either one of those than it is to try and get your gun out and to try to drive and shoot or even just to maneuver inside the car and get the gun into play. You're better off hitting the throttle and trying to either take care of the problem that way or get the heck out of there, which would be my first choice.
Well, I'm with you on that. Maybe I didn't explain myself. Maybe I need to listen to my own episode. Definitely, first choice is escape. The second choice would be use the vehicle as a weapon, and then third is to actually use your firearm and get out and fight. And when I'm talking about your car being a bullet magnet, once somebody is focused in on your vehicle as the point, and you start to get out to fight, then your vehicle becomes a bullet magnet. That's when if you can't get the vehicle out of there, it's just going to suck up rounds left and right.
Yeah. Well, and look at when people are when police are in situations where they are firing on vehicles, they just unload, man. They dump round after round after round after round on those things. So I can certainly understand where you're coming from on that, where it's a big target. You know, they're gonna continue shooting until that target stops moving.
And even then, they'll probably keep shooting at the vehicle. Once you focus in on the vehicle being the bad thing, that's kind of where all the bullets go. It's a big target. I mean, it's barn door size target. So that's what I was talking about. Is once the fight starts, and if you can't get away or use your vehicle as a weapon, that thing is just going to be a bullet sponge when it sits there. So my point is, once you get out and start fighting with the vehicle, you need to move to a better or different cover, because the enemy will just focus on that vehicle and keep filling it full of lead. And they're not really the greatest. I mean, you get lucky, you get unlucky. Who knows when a bullet goes through the door, if it's going to go through and through to you or if it's going to be stopped by the vehicle. There's too many factors to even repeat what's going to happen.
Well, and one thing I wanted to bring up, Rob, when we had our personal news segment at the very beginning of the show, Rob got a chance to fire from inside a pickup. Now, Rob, were all the windows removed on that one?
The back window was gone. The two side windows were down. And it was it makes shooting indoors seem like a pretty quiet, really. And this was a handgun. Some guys had said they'd shot a .308 in there with a muzzle brake. And being double plugged was just barely double plugged. Wearing earplugs and earphones was just barely enough protection.
Absolutely nasty to fire a weapon inside of a vehicle. Rifles, you got to get that muzzle outside the vehicle. There's just nothing else to it. If you don't, you like the .308 with a muzzle brake, forget it. If you don't have ear pro on,
you're
it's
done.
A flashbang. Yeah, you're gonna daze yourself for a couple seconds.
Definitely.
So, where did we disagree on that one, Paul? I think
I think we already cleared it up.
One. Okay, yeah, I think we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, one of you is saying, "Oh, get away from your vehicle," and the other one's saying, "No, get away with your vehicle." So they're kind of different sides of the same problem.
Well, I'm with you, Paul, on the first step. My first choice is always to escape. We're here as civilians and civilian self-defense. Your first job is your family and yourself. Get the heck out of Dodge, and one of the best ways to do it is that big, huge metal box that you're in. It goes really, really fast when you step on the right pedal. So yeah, stay in your vehicle, get away. if the vehicle gets disabled and you get stuck, traffic, I mean, somebody gets a lucky shot on the engine block and you're just done, that's when I'm saying get away from the vehicle. It's become a bullet sponge. You can't sit there and fight from inside your vehicle. You got to get out. You got to move.
The other thing I wanted to bring up was, and this is where my professional driver comes in. There are a lot of, when you're, anybody who's driving, in almost any vehicle you drive, if you are sitting in the driver's seat and you are coming up to a stop, if you stop with where you can see pavement underneath the farthest back portion, usually it's the bumper, sometimes with big truck it's the ICC bumper, but with any vehicle you have, if you stop with enough room that you can see pavement below the furthest back portion of that vehicle in front of you, you can crank that wheel, either wheel lock left or wheel lock right. Wheel lock is as far as the wheel will go. Stand on the throttle and you will clear that vehicle without touching it. Now, I believe in your show when you talked, you said, and I totally agree with this, don't worry about curbs. Don't worry about signs. They break off. It's okay. You got insurance. You say you drive a big truck and you that's why you drive that. I'll tell you, I used to drive a Geo Metro, and they don't get much smaller than that. And that Geo Metro would jump curbs like nobody's business. I got when we were coming to the end of that vehicle, when it was at the end of its useful life, I took some practice at doing evasive maneuvers. And not only would it spin on the dime, it would clear almost any curb out there and keep trucking right along.
Cool. It became a sacrificial vehicle, is what you said, Paul.
It was worth about, I'd say maybe $600-700 at the end of its life, and I got my $600-700 worth of training out of it and finding out what I could do with it.
Yeah, but knowing your vehicle is a big thing. I used to drive an old Camaro. It wouldn't hop any curb. It would hit the frame before it would hit the wheels up front. So it was I wasn't going over a curb with my old Camaro. So you got to know your vehicle, what your vehicle can do, what it can't. And I mean, you can find that out by going into a parking lot and stopping against the curb of the sidewalk to go into wherever you're going, and you can look at to see if your frame's going to clear, if the wheels are going to clear, and how much ground clearance you actually have. It's kind of easy if you just step back and look at it. So I know my Camaro, when I'd come up to just the parking spots that had the divider, I'd come up and I could bump the frame before I'd bump the tires. So getting over a curb in that vehicle just wasn't going to happen.
Right.
So I encourage everybody to go see what their vehicle looks like underneath. I mean, learn your vehicle, know what it'll do and what it won't. You know, your Geo Metro, advantages of that thing is so small, it would turn on a dime. You could jump curbs with it. It would get places that other vehicles can't just because it's so small. It's more like a motorcycle than an actual car. Maybe a lunchbox. I don't know. Those things were so small.
But believe it or not, I had my wife and I, and neither one of us are small people anymore. And we had our 2 teenage sons at the time. And at the time, they are now both physically larger than we are. But at the time, they were both about the same. So we had about, I'm going to say, between my sons, my wife, and I, we had about 900 pounds of people in that car.
You sure you can still jump the curb with all those people in there? I mean, that's a small little car. I remember Geo Metros. My friend had one, 3-cylinder engine, got like 50 miles to the gallon. But if you really wanted to go anywhere, you'd probably have to get out and push.
Uphill, that's true. Yeah, you had to drop a gear. The one I had was a 5-speed, and you had to drop it to 4th to get up the hill if you had it totally loaded.
On the other hand, I think I had a friend's Dodge Colt that had a turbo. Talk about a sleeper.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, my episodes are big on, hey, you got to know your vehicle and what it'll do, what it won't. Obviously, if you drive your Geo Metro and you get stuck in the middle lane at a stoplight, you're not going to push the car in front of you out of the way to get going. It's just not going to happen. When you drive a truck, especially you, Paul, with your 18-wheeler, no problem, put it in low, and you could push like 10 cars out of the way and just keep going.
Dump
So
trucks.
knowing your vehicle is it's a huge thing that you can do just for your safety.
Well, and I would say, just as a defensive driving technique, if you can stay, I don't care what you're driving, if you can stay out of that middle lane, do it. Yeah, when I drive, I prefer the right lane because it's a whole lot better chance you're going to be able to crank that wheel right and get out of there than if you're taking the left lane where you have to do some more dodging to get clear. But even so, I mean, just I don't like if there's 3 or more lanes. I do not like riding that middle lane unless I just don't have a choice.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing when you look at it. I like the left lane when I drive my big truck. I know I can go over almost 90% of the center dividers, and it's a little suicidal. But when you get up on the opposite side of the road, it gives you room to move, gives you room to run. So it's kind of you take your chances. You know, if you got a little car, one of those little like a Jeep Wrangler or something, the right lane would be great because once you get up on the curb, that Jeep Wrangler is so small and skinny, you could drive right down the curb and probably be okay on the sidewalk. So your vehicle and what it can do is going to be a major issue on your self-defense when you're in your vehicle.
You bet.
And that Geo, once it got up on the sidewalk, man, it was as big as the sidewalk. You were set.
Well, yeah, it wasn't much wider than a sidewalk. And honestly, I'll die if it were to come down to it, I would drive through somebody's yard. I would drive through a parking lot's business at 40 miles an hour. I don't care. If my goal is to get out of there, and you know what, I've got insurance. It's paid up. I paid 6 months at a time usually, so it's paid well in advance. That's what that's there for. They have body shops. They have mechanic shops. They don't make more of me though. They don't make more of my wife, who is quite often riding around with me. So
and my whole point on that thing is just, well, yeah, you got insurance and everything. So if you're driving a big truck and you've got to push a car out of the way to get into the intersection so you can get away, hey, call 911 and you can go back and say, I'm sorry to that person later and give them your insurance information and settle up. It's only a vehicle. That's what we got insurance for.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want people to see that don't be afraid to take bold action. We get afraid to break the rules. My wife is I love her to death, but if it says don't walk on the grass, she's afraid to walk on the grass. It's just not going to happen. And then if I walk on the grass, she's going to rip into me. So I want everybody to realize that, taking that kind of bold action, it's okay as long as you don't hurt any innocent people. If you hurt a vehicle, you hurt their grass, you run over a sign, all this stuff can be repaired, replaced. You have insurance, big deal. Call the police, meet up with them, go back, and take care of it later. But get away, get safe.
Yeah, and definitely ignore those stop signs. A lot of people, I've been in a case where I've had somebody chasing me with their vehicle before. And if you stop for that stop sign, all of a sudden they've caught up to you, and you gotta start trying to get away again. You gotta ignore the rules of the road sometimes. And I think that's kind of your point, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to take that bold action sometimes. And if it's your safety or running a stop sign, I mean, hey, if somebody's chasing you and you run a stop sign and a cop sees you and starts pulling you over,
thank you.
Yeah, the police were where they needed to be at that point. Stuff like that. The only thing is you got to remember the rules of the road are there more for safety than anything else. I mean, law enforcement likes to use it as a revenue maker sometimes, but a stop sign is there so everybody doesn't cream into the intersection at the same time and kill each other. Mm-hmm. So when you're running away, you still got to be mindful of not hitting another vehicle. If you hit another vehicle, you didn't get away, you got stopped.
I'm trying to remember if this was on your podcast or not. If it's not, it was on another one I listened to recently. But I think it was the one that I asked you to come on to talk about, and that is that there are certain police agencies that have exempted their officers from having to wear seatbelts while they're driving because it is so hard to get to their gun. I would say to my listeners, I would like to say that seatbelt is going to save your life if you're in a situation such as we're describing and using your car in a manner that it really wasn't intended to be used. If you smack that curb to get over it, when you clear it, it's going to be a very violent movement of you inside that car. You don't want your head to be hitting the windshield when that sudden deceleration bumps you over the curb. I would like please, everybody, use your seat belts. If you've got to get to your gun When the car comes to a stop and your car won't move, then you hit your seatbelt and get out of the car. But if you're going to be using it in a aggressive manner, if you're going to be using your car in an aggressive manner to escape, please use your seatbelt. It could easily save your life.
It'll probably keep you in your seat, though, is the biggest thing. You know, you said when you hit a curb, you hit another car. If you haven't done these things off-road or something and done some of those violent actions, you'd be surprised how much force that it generates and knocks you and moves you around. Your seatbelt will hold you in the seat and allow you to keep control of the vehicle. Whereas if you hit that sudden deceleration or the car bucks 5 feet to the left, it doesn't throw you out of the seat, and then you're just trying to hold on to the steering wheel to get back to the seat, and now you're no longer in control of your vehicle. So it's a really good point. And yeah, I did mention that. For some reason, Southern California and California, like West Coast law enforcement thinking, they don't wear their seatbelt. It's just the way it is. Here in the center of the United States and the South, they do. The law really doesn't change for them. It's just, I don't know, years ago when I trained with them, that was just their thought, and that was the culture. Nobody really wore their seatbelt.
Okay.
Now I have a question for Ben. When we're describing as you're in your vehicle, and if you do have to gain access to your firearm, what is your thoughts behind an in-vehicle holster for your firearm?
That is definitely the fastest way to get to a vehicle. Your seatbelt is going to get in the way no matter where you carry your weapon, unless you're actually doing like you can see my arms right on the podcast. If you're doing a shoulder holster and you're right-handed, it's about the only place that you're not going to be impeded to draw your weapon with your seatbelt on. So in-vehicle is not a bad idea.
I have, like in my truck, on just on the right side of my steering column, I have a holster mounted because I have noticed that it is hard to get to your firearm, even if you're just sitting without a seatbelt on. And it does get in the way while I'm just driving. So I have mounted a holster in there to hold my firearm while I'm driving.
Well, the only thing I would say to that is I would make sure that holster has a retention device, a strap of some kind, simply because if you get into an accident, and I've been in some high velocity accidents when I was a kid and doing some racing. Stuff flies around.
Oh yes, it does.
And even a regular, if it's in just a regular Kydex holster, there's not enough retention there to stop that thing from slipping that gun out. So make sure you got a strap of some kind holding that thing in.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I'm with you. The only downside and to that idea is you want to probably have a second gun. Here's the thoughts behind that. If I always have a gun in the dash, it's always there. I keep the gun on me. If something goes really, really wrong, you have to remember to get your gun as you're getting out of the vehicle. In the military, we put our rifles when we're running up armor stuff. You put the rifle in the door so it blocks the doorway, so you can't get out without your weapon when something goes wrong. Because guys forget them all the time when they're in a firefight. You jump out of the vehicle and you're like, wait a second, I forgot something. Where's my weapon? And have to go back to the vehicle. Well, not only do you look stupid, when you have a squadron of Marines, everybody just razzes you and throws down fire. When you're on your own and you didn't grab that weapon on the console on your way out, I mean, you're just kind of screwed. So if you put a second weapon there, it's a really good idea. The downside of that is always now there's a weapon in my vehicle all the time, and if somebody breaks in, am I going to lose that gun? And I'm kind of paranoid about losing my gun and having some dirtbag take my gun and use it against somebody that's innocent. I really, really hate that idea, and I guard my weapons pretty closely for that idea. I don't really. You'll see me when I go to some place that there's a weapon in my truck. I tell everybody my truck is lonely. I need to go visit it all the time, and I want to see it out the window and stuff. I get really paranoid about that. And some of my friends know what I'm talking about, and other ones just think I'm crazy and love my truck too much. But that's okay.
We do need to step aside for a break here. We're running just a little bit long. Hang on, everybody. We'll be back with one more segment with Ben Branam right after this. That was I didn't even look. That was 20 minutes like right now.
There is a technique for drawing from your hip holster in your car. I teach it in my holster class. I just learned it a few months ago, where you kind of pull your whole body, and I'm bigger than all y'all. and you pull your whole body forward with your steering wheel with your left hand, so that you're leaned over as far as you can, and you can get your shirt up and get to your holster, and your seatbelt will not be in the way.
And you're a half a contortionist, right?
No.
Paul trying to do it over there. It's kind of funny. Yeah, that one does work. You use the steering wheel for leverage. I've always just had a big truck, and I can lay my face against the outside window and gain enough room to draw my weapon.
Right.
I have seen on.
Let's do this on the air.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
good.
that's a good idea.
All right, coming back in 5. Hey, and welcome back. Segment 2 with Ben Branam, Modern Self-Protection. Ben, we were talking a little bit off air, and I wanted to, Gary, if we could, because you brought this up while we were on the break. Let's go ahead and could you mention what you brought up off the air again?
Well, it's just a technique for retrieving your gun from a hip holster in your vehicle. If you use the steering wheel for leverage, pull your whole body to the left, and Ben said it right, put your cheek all the way to your outside window. You can draw with your right hand, if you're a right-handed user, get your shirt up, draw from your holster, get your gun out without even taking your seatbelt off. You can actually get to it quite easily. Just needs to be practiced with an empty gun for a while first.
Sure.
Practice a little bit and you can figure it out. I always drove that old Camaro and pickup trucks. So with my pickup truck right now, I don't have to use the steering wheel. I can just plaster my face against the glass, and that creates enough space for me to draw my weapon without doing the. Generally, I'll click the seatbelt release because it's right there. I'm right-handed, and get that out of the way. But you're right. That's a good technique for somebody to start to practice. Is grab that steering wheel with your left hand if you're right-handed, pull it as far as you can towards you, and that'll pull your body off center so you can gain enough room to draw your weapon. If you haven't tried this, everybody in your seat, man, that seat gets in the stinking way. And then once you think you defeated the seatbelt's now in your way. Once you practice it a couple of times, it's not that bad.
I think you recommended on your show, Ben, that when you practice this, you practice it inside a closed garage. I would kind of echo that, you know.
Yeah, and I actually got that kind of trick Bob Maine came up with from the Handgun World podcast, and he's probably the best one I've seen from fighting from a vehicle to get to his pistols, because he pulls his car in his garage like once a month and he practices. So he's got probably all of us beat, including me, getting to the weapon while he's sitting behind the car. You're sitting behind the steering wheel in the car.
I think us truck drivers have you beat because we have a better seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys have enough room in that truck that you can, get 4 people in there to come dance with you.
If you ever see me try to dry fire inside that truck, you might change your mind.
I would.
But no.
That's because you have a bed and a cooler. Ben, I was shooting from inside a pickup at about noon today. Man, it's all of a sudden. I swear, I got in there. I tried to draw a gun, and it turned into a subcompact around me.
But yeah, when you're driving truck, the chairs we sit in, you sit in a position driving a truck very much like a kitchen table chair. That's the position you sit in to drive a truck, and so it does make drawing a firearm, if you need to, a lot easier than if you were in a Camaro or any of the sports cars that have the wraparound seats.
And then you got the truck, you got the cool air seat, right? That bounces up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so grabbing your holstered gun is now a moving target. So that's fun too.
Well, but again, we discussed this before. If I'm going to be going for my gun, there's going to be the truck is done moving. I will not be going for the gun unless the truck cannot move. Even with as slow as that truck accelerates, I can still beat anybody on foot after about 8 or 9 seconds.
I was going to say 3rd or 4th gear, right around there.
Yeah, it's but then once I get rolling, once I hit honestly 4th gear, I can go faster than most people can sprint, and it's not far from 4th gear to 8th gear when I'm really hauling some butt.
Yeah, I know. I'm just giving you a hard time. I used to drive an Eaton Fuller 8 over, so.
There you go.
You weren't getting anywhere until you got to fourth gear, you know. Getting off the line is like first, second, third, fourth, and now I'm across the intersection.
That's pretty. Yeah, I drive well, I've been training this week at a 13 speed, but I drive my normal one. I drive in as a 10 speed, and so yeah, pretty much any modern truck, if you're until you get into fourth or fifth gear, you're just getting momentum started. I wouldn't want to be hit by a truck doing anything other than first or second gear, but yeah, you're not getting a whole lot of ground covered until you get into at least fourth.
True, but you can normally start most of these in third or fourth gear. That's what I normally did before I got an automatic.
Depending on your load.
Yeah, if you're empty.
Or a big engine.
Yeah, well, either way, even so, yeah. I hauled just this week. I was scaled out 79.2, and I started off most of the time in second gear. In first gear, just for our listeners, and a lot of whom are truck drivers, first gear, or what a lot of drivers call granny low, is almost never, ever, ever used. Most drivers start out in second or sometimes third. But the third gear start is usually with a pretty light load or bobtail. I can start in fifth bobtail, but
I remember driving a concrete truck loaded out far enough, and it was about 80,000 pounds on 3 axles. And I had one truck for a while in International that you had to start in low. So to get the truck rolling, it was low 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now I'm doing 45 miles an hour. So that was a lot of work to drive one of those trucks. Those concrete trucks are way. Well, here's general knowledge for everybody else. Those concrete trucks you see on the road, the big spinning thing in the back, has all that concrete. They are so grossly overweight. Stay away from them. They're not stopping. They're high-centered. They're like the second most dangerous thing on the road. It takes a good driver to keep those things on the road and not have them roll over on somebody. So if you kind of think about it, that's a liquid load, and it's about 40 to 45,000 pounds, and it's way up high. So if that thing rolls over on you, it's
no matter what I'm driving, if we're coming up on a right-hand curve and I'm passing a cement truck, I will not get to the back of the cement truck. If they're on the inside of me, I won't come up to them going around a right-hand curve. I don't care how good of a driver they are. I just or how low the radius of the curb. I'm gonna wait until they're straight before I pass them.
It's probably a good idea. So I was just giving general knowledge to all those that haven't driven that truck before. They are the grossest, ugliest things in the world,
and they drive that way too.
Yeah, but we used to get paid by the load, so we were drag racing them back and forth to the plant. I got paid by the load. If I can do one more a day, that was another $50 a day I could make. So I was always in a hurry. Probably not the best thing, but hey, I managed not to have an accident in the 3 years I did that. So cross your fingers.
It does remind me, though, of handguns, because we just said there's always one uglier than the one I'm wearing.
Unless, of course, you're wearing what is we were just talking about them the other day, the one that got left in the chart. High point, yeah.
$200.
If you're wearing a high point, there is no uglier gun.
No, just you gotta go with the ugly.
If you paid less than $200 for your gun, you might be wearing the ugliest gun in the
room. Unless it was used.
Yeah, well, that's true. But even then, $200, that's a pretty good deal on a gun. Yeah. I know the shop that I work for right now, Sparks Firearms here in San Antonio, is selling those high points for just under $200.
Oh.
So they're, hey, people want them, so that's why we sell them. It's better than not having a gun, but just about any other gun is better.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about this back a couple episodes ago. I'm not against high points. I give them a hard time, but I'm really not against them. If somebody needs to get a gun, and it could even be a starter gun, because they'll, believe it or not, gun shops will trade them in if you won't buy a high point, get something, start practicing with it. When you saved up a little bit of money, you might have spent, say you spent $200 on the high point. They'll probably still give you $75, $80 on trade-in on it.
Yeah, you might be able to find somebody else to unload that onto. But having no gun is better than I mean, having a high point's better than having no gun. What was it, 2 months ago? A bunch of people made fun of a lady that shot at a bunch of burglars with her high point carbine. It freaking worked. They left.
The gal out in Detroit, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were making fun of her for having a high point. It worked. She shot at them. They ran away. It worked just fine.
I seen the video. They were in a very big hurry to get out of her house.
Yeah, well, hey, I don't knock high points when they're working, you know.
It was a teenager. Teenager comes up with a BB gun. She fires in the floor. He goes, I'm not really believing that. He comes back for another dose, and she puts another round in the door frame. He goes, yeah, it's seeming a bad idea right now.
All of a sudden, I got somewhere else to be. Yeah.
Yeah, after seeing them actually work, I mean, crap. Good for her. She got a cheap high point. It worked. So, they're still ugly though. No matter what you say, they're still.
They are ugly.
And they feel like toys. I mean, I handled them when I was at SHOT Show, and they feel like toys. But yeah, they're effective. I mean, there are people that swear by them. I guess they have a pretty good guarantee behind them. But ugh.
I've seen I have yet to see a pistol actually function completely. I've been a couple times to the range, and they always fail. The rifle carbines seem to do a lot better. They actually seem to work.
We just got a comment from YouTube. David Steele says, high points work ugly as sin, but they work. Not to mention high point stands behind their product. And again, they have a very good warranty, I understand. I've never owned one myself, but yeah.
Good. One of these days I'm going to have to cough up the $200 and just buy one to break it. See how long it takes me.
Yep. Around this area, they're like 150.
Oh,
You'd almost have to have a guarantee on something that ugly.
Well, and to give you guys, everybody an idea, I have 2 Glock 19s, and I have broken both of them. So I'm a Marine. I could break any. Give me a brick, I'll break it in a couple days. You know.
I thought. Oh wait, Ben. I thought you needed 2 bricks to break them.
2 is more helpful than 1, yes, but if you give me 1, give me enough time, I'll break it.
Give him time.
All right. Well, we're coming up on. Believe it or not, we're coming up on segment break here again in a few minutes. But Ben, if I could, every episode we plug the Shooters Club. We have an affiliate relationship with you and Bob. And we were even bragging on some of your videos earlier in the show. Well, as the listeners are going to hear it later in the show. But could you tell us a little bit about Shooters Club and what that's all about?
Shooters Club is kind of the idea that Bob and I came up with, just to give something back. We had all this stuff we're doing, and everybody can't come to us to train. I mean, it's all over the United States. So we came up with the idea, and then we just started, we just started adding to it, and Bob goes, hey, why don't we charge for it? And so next thing you know, we have shootersclubmembers.com, and it's a site where we put up a how-to video every month on how to do something shooting. So if you go to politicsandguns.com, isn't that still your website, Paul?
Mm-hmm. They can get there through that, yep.
And click on it, you can get there. You can also go to the homepage, shootersclubmembers.com, and on there's a video of me showing you how to shoot an AR with open sights faster. And that's all it is. Every video is a how-to in the gun world. And we try to break it down, and the last video we just did was on drawing your handgun. We break it down to the very beginning, like you have never done this before, step by step, show it to you. I even slow down the video so you can see step by step. Bob goes over drawing from appendix, which is really good because I'm not good at that. And then at the end, I actually do advanced techniques on how to draw a double action or a modern striker-fired gun and be faster and smoother to shoot. So it's kind of we try to hit everybody from the very beginner to the advanced guy. You'll pick up something from the videos. And Paul, if you go through Paul's site, which you should, he gets a nice fat commission.
Well, I like to say they support both your show and our show. So
yes, but hey, go to Politics and Guns and go through their site just because. Hey, you should. You're listening to their show.
Very cool. Any other questions for Ben? No, I think
all of a sudden the birds. Nobody likes me anymore. I plug my stuff and that's it.
All right.
Or you answered them all and did an excellent job.
Oh.
There you go.
So you can see me. I have my nostalgia face on. You guys are awesome. Thanks. I love being on this show. Paul, I've been listening more and more. I love you guys all. It's so much fun to be on your show.
Thank you, man. I do appreciate it. Everybody they do need to also go to modernselfprotection.com. Ben has a great podcast himself and does something I never get around to, and that's occasionally write some blog posts. So, but yeah, check those out. And Ben, I want to thank you again for coming on. And I know it's not going to be long before I asked you to come back again, man.
Well, cool. Anytime. I really enjoyed it. For all you guys listening out there, thanks so much for listening. Keep listening to Paul. You guys all rule.
Hang on, everybody. Right back right after this. Awesome. Just going to export this quick.
Make sure you don't lose the file.
Well, that's what I love. I record these all locally. However, by doing these as Google Plus Hangouts on air, there's a backup on YouTube. I can always pull the video down and rip it.
Oh,
So,
I didn't know they record it themselves. That's kind of cool. You just hit record on your end?
Yeah, this all goes up live on YouTube. As soon as I start the broadcast, everything goes live. And then when I'm all done, I stop the broadcast, and it stays up on YouTube and in perpetuity. So.
Oh, cool. I'm going to have to learn how to do this.
Well, again, Ben, thanks, man. Live viewers, I want to thank you all. I want to remind everybody that please support the show's sponsors, ABN Army Surplus, Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, New Jersey Second Amendment Society, and Firearms Safety Institute. I'm going to go ahead and take us off live, and live viewers, tune in again Wednesday night. We'll be back.